Hey, everybody. We're back for the third installment of the Journey Up an Entrepreneur's Guide. Our guest today, I'm super excited to have on. He's from Navarre Beach in Florida. He is also last year ranked top 10 MLO in the state of Georgia and also a fellow Florida State alumni. So we're super excited to have him on the podcast today. Welcome, Chandler Perrer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How's it going,
Excited
man?
to be here.
Yeah. So, obviously, in the Journey Up an Entrepreneur's Guide, we always have, our guests share their anabasis or, their story of their journey up through, life and business and things. So I'd really like to hear from you just to get started, leading into your story, kind of your childhood and leading into kind of, where you are today in business.
Yeah, of course. So growing up, whenever I got into high school, trying to figure out, what do you want to do next? Go to college, go to the military, start a career. I knew I always wanted to go to college. That was like a big goal of mine. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted an education of some sort and to go explore that side of life. I didn't have means to do it really. So I ended up joining the military as a way to, gain access to benefits like the GI Bill and get
Mhm.
that paid for. So coming out of high school, I did 4 years in the military. I got stationed in Colorado, got deployed to Kuwait and Iraq,
Yeah.
went back to Colorado. Following my time in the military, I
Yeah,
went
tell
back
me a
to
little bit about, your deployment.
okay. So in the military, I joined as an infantryman. I was actually in basic at Fort Benning in Georgia,
Uh-huh.
stationed in Colorado, did about a year of training out there, deployed to Kuwait and Iraq. It was kind of a downtime over there, but
How long were you out there in, Iraq?
uh, February of 2015, we left and I came back November 11th,
Mhm.
2015. So a little over 9 months.
9 months,
Um,
okay.
Yeah, and a lot of it we were just on security out there. So majors would come into the safer side of Kuwait. It's a small country. They would come up to Camp Buring, which is where I spent a lot of my time. It's about a mile off the border of Iraq.
Yeah,
Um, Majors would come up. We'd fly them into Baghdad, provide protection, and then we would fly them
and
back.
you were what, like 19 at the time?
When I deployed, I was 20. I turned 21 while I was there, right before
Okay.
I came back.
So, I mean, being that young and being deployed overseas, obviously, that's a big change from, growing up in Florida.
Yeah,
What was that like, kind of the differences and, what you learned, being in the military and actually, being deployed overseas?
it was definitely culture shock.
Yeah,
A lot of discipline came from it. I think I personally needed discipline in my life
Mhm.
and routine and structure. Like no one ever kind of ingrained that in me growing up.
yeah, it's
Right.
More of an
important.
individual, didn't know like kind of what I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
So it kind of ingrained in me fitness, which I still carry to this day, which provides part of that structure in your daily routine.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, and then also it kind of teaches you how to like fit in
Mhm.
to a mass amount of people that come from different backgrounds and different ways of life and how to accept people as a whole.
Right.
There's you're working with 35-year-olds from Samoa or
Yeah.
18-year-olds from New York or, people from all different walks of life.
That's
So
gotta
just
Really
be
a big melting pot.
yeah, it's a big melting pot that's very strict, very disciplined, rule oriented. It teaches you a lot of teamwork, camaraderie.
Mhm.
Um,
It's
bec-
probably a special type of bond too, like you said, coming from all different walks of life and then all coming together. Um, you kinda have to have each other's back, so I'm sure you probably do you still, like, stay in touch with any of the guys that, maybe you went through boot camp with or maybe you were deployed with today or
yeah, not boot camp as much. I have a couple friends on like Facebook. We like each other's posts and things like that. Like
Yeah.
we wish each other happy birthday. I'm closest people I was stationed with and deployed with. We actually got to like talk to each other. In basic, you don't get to talk to each other.
Right.
Like you're kind of silent the whole time. So it's more of
Yeah.
an
Mhm.
experience bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But being deployed with someone, sleeping next to someone for 9 months and, going through the same things of not being able to talk to your family, no internet,
Yeah.
sweating it out, kind of going
Yeah.
through the suck of it, enjoy it and embracing the suck is like what we would say.
What were
You have that bond.
Yeah, 100%. What were, like, some, like, mentally, how was boot camp, though? Because I mean, I've always heard stories about people that, say they can't believe they're doing it or maybe they, wanna get out. What were you going through mentally throughout boot camp? Because obviously that I'm sure that's like a, do you think that was, like, one of, like, the hardest things you've been through in your life, or how was that for you?
Um, I'm a pretty in shape guy, so like the physicality of it, I don't
Right.
think was the toughest thing I ever went through.
Yeah.
There's some people who show up out of shape, and you can definitely tell like the long runs and things like that. Like we had to definitely support them and they were getting like chewed out and
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
disciplined appropriately. But um, really just a mental. Like you go in there, you like lose your name, you're just a number.
Mhm.
You can't talk to anybody. You're like dead silent. Like you have no friends, you have no family. Like
Right.
you're like, okay, I'm kind of like a machine. Like, you don't have
Mhm.
a strict routine. You're getting yelled at. So it's really just a mental game.
Mhm.
Teaches you like forge ahead. You know, there's an end goal.
Right.
Once you kind of get over like the shock factor, like that first week, they call it hell week.
Yeah.
You kind of get into the routine of things. It's not the funnest by any means, but I mean, it definitely gets you ready. You learn a lot of information over a short amount of time. So,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
you know, it's very productive for you. And, like you learn a lot.
Right.
And were you infantry or what
I
was
was
your
infantry.
did you have
Yeah.
a specialty that
I was
you focused on?
I was infantry, and then when I got to my base, I was just in a regular infantry platoon, and
Mhm.
then towards my end, I got in a sniper recon
Okay.
platoon,
Mhm.
and that's who I served with overseas.
Okay.
So I was with a lot of scouts, and those were kind of the guys I had like my deepest bond with. And
Okay.
I actually came back and lived with a few of them for my last year in the military.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And then obviously, after the military, you transitioned and used your GI Bill to
Mhm.
go over to FSU.
Yeah, so instantly I knew I wanted to go to college. That was
Yeah.
Mhm.
I knew I didn't want to serve for a long time,
Uh-huh.
but I wanted to get like the benefits of it, and I didn't mind serving in the meantime to
Mhm.
pay for college. I wanted to go debt free. I didn't want to take on a lot of debt. I have a paid off car, things like that.
Right.
So I paid off my car while I was in the military. That was important for me. And then
It's good to keep your expenses low when you go to
yeah,
college.
exactly, exactly. So then I got out, and then I came back to Florida, and I chose to go to Florida State, very veteran friendly school. Our old president was actually a veteran. He was actually stationed at the same base I was in Fort Carson,
Okay.
Thrasher. But yeah, came back to Florida State. I originally wanted to be a dentist because I just
Really?
yeah.
I
So I
don't know
started
if I could if I could see that
yeah.
after
So
being friends with you for so many years.
yeah, yeah. So I started out as a bio major. I didn't have much direction. I just had an idea of what I wanted to do,
Uh-huh.
more or less. You have to kind of pick something.
Mhm.
So after going into that for a year or two, kind of realized I wasn't passionate about it. I didn't want to like hit the books and learn chemistry. Like it
Right.
just didn't click per se. And then just you know interested in finance. You're about that age. Like I was 22, 23.
Mhm.
I took up a lot of like interest in personal finance. I'd watch like a lot of YouTube channels like Graham Stephan, Andrew Jick, just trying to figure out life. I'm on my own, renting an apartment,
Mhm.
Yeah.
trying to figure out like what the next step in life is. So that kind of naturally transitioned me to look into economics and business.
Yeah.
And then going through those classes, I started learning about real estate. I realized, real estate's a great way to, build wealth and set up
Mhm.
my future and my
Mhm.
family's future. So through that, I ended up getting my real estate license through a course, and then through the real estate course, I actually learned about mortgages.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I'd never been exposed to mortgages. My family didn't really ever own homes,
Yeah.
Right.
so having a passion for personal finance at that point, learning about mortgages, and I'm kind of like numbers. I was
Uh-huh.
like, this is something I really want to dive into, and not many people do. So I just kind of took that head on, got my MLO license my senior year right after my real estate license.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of set me up to start searching for jobs my senior year of college.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
What were some of, like, the things you were talking about investing, you were learning about, real estate and stuff. Were you doing any, like, other personal investments throughout college? Like, was there anything that you were, putting your money into?
Yeah. So
I know you did professional photography for a while, right?
yeah, I did professional photography. So um, I got a job whenever I got to college as a leasing agent.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of got me into the real estate world as well. But through that, um, well, sidetrack, I met a guy named Bose,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
and he was working at clubs in Tallahassee at the time, and he was a
Okay.
photographer, and I really liked what he did. I grew up skateboarding, so I knew how to like make skate videos growing up. I knew I could do the same thing he was doing, and he looked like he was having fun, making
Yeah.
good money, running his own business.
Yeah.
So at the leasing company, after I met him, I saved up and bought like my first camera setup. That was probably like my first investment in
Yeah.
college.
What camera was it?
Uh, a Canon 5D Mark IV.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those aren't cheap.
No, it wasn't cheap. I saved up for like probably 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
And then I
Mhm.
just put it all into that. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go full swing at this.
Uh-huh.
Um, Started like marketing towards businesses, just cold approaching people at
Mhm.
bars and restaurants.
Mhm.
Booked a few gigs, started doing grad photos.
So while everyone's partying and stuff, you're in there with your camera taking pictures and videos for all the
Yeah.
bars and the nightclubs and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they got me into sports too. I do like FSU football, FSU
Mhm.
basketball.
So really
Um,
your whole business and lead generation in photography when you were in college was just cold going into
Yeah,
different
100%.
establishments and going right to them and saying, "Hey, do you need this? I'm ready to work."
Well, a lot of it I would do for free at first.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, for FSU basketball, I approached, like, Terrence Mann. He's on the
Yeah.
Clippers
Yeah.
now. But I was like, "Hey, man, I see you're great at basketball. Do you
Yeah.
want anyone to come take photos of you? Like, you care about social media. It's gonna help you promote your business.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'll do it for free just to
Just
show
to
you I'm
get,
good and you can
yeah,
have
some
it,
content.
build a relationship."
Right.
That turned into me shooting for FSU basketball on the court
Uh-huh.
during games.
You were on the court during
Yeah,
games.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And
That's
then
freaking
same
awesome.
with, like, recess,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
just approach Christian Caban,
Mhm.
the owner at the time, and I believe still owner today, and just
It
said, "Have
Yeah,
me out one
he
night, I'll take
he
photos for
owns,
free."
I think he owns Clyde's and Warehouse now. So I think he's got
Mm.
a whole
Yeah, good for
kind of
him.
conglomerate.
And then the same idea, just approach, like, "Let me take some photos. If you like them,
Uh-huh.
awesome. Have me back. If you don't, no hard feelings." Kinda did that to, like, build my book of business.
Who were
Mhm.
some, like, notable, you're taking pictures at nightclubs and bars and venues and sports games and stuff. Who were, like, some notable people that you have, like, individual pictures of or people that you worked with that someone listening now would know?
I got really into, like, the music scene, so I'd end up going
Uh-huh.
to, like, music festivals.
Mhm,
It's like Hippie Sabotage, Lil
mhm,
Baby, Lil Yachty, 21 Savage,
mhm,
um,
and
Terrence Mann.
and then didn't I I'll call you out on it, but Lil Baby used your picture for his profile picture
Yeah,
for, like, a year or something
yeah,
like
on
that. I
Twitter.
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
that was
pretty
cool.
cool. That
that is
was
pretty
pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah, it was cool to make money that way, and then, I was watching personal finance videos at that time.
Mhm.
So I was, um, also in a intro or macro economics class,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
and I'm learning about investing in the stock market and doing different things.
Yeah.
The market's about to crash. My professor's calling it while we're watching him play with his portfolio.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, cool. I need to, like, put my money here that I'm getting now that I
Uh-huh.
already
Mhm,
have my camera and set up." So I started investing in, like, the stock market. I got really into crypto. I kinda did that for, like, my last few years. That built
Mhm.
me up a little enough
mhm,
spot to, you know, go attack something post-college.
How would you
100%.
say that, that experience, prepared you for mortgages and, the real business world that you're in now afterwards?
So the mortgage business, whenever I first got into it, I was in a call center.
Mhm,
So I did inside sales, so it wasn't
Uh-huh.
quite like building your book of business. I was
Exactly.
more I love the role I had at first. It was honestly a blessing looking back at it,
Uh-huh.
just because rates were really low. Everybody was refinancing. I was in a call center where we
What
mhm.
company was that?
fiber.
That
Fiber.
was Fiber,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
but you were on the
It was like
inside
a
side.
different side of things. Just
Uh-huh.
rates were low. We'd send out all these mailers.
Uh-huh.
They would call in and say, "Hey, I see you're advertising a 2% rate. Can I refi?" So it
Uh-huh.
gave me a lot of reps and like structuring loans and learning about like the process.
Y'all are probably
Uh-huh.
doing a ton of refinances with that 2%.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think my top month I did 27, like
Jeez.
27
September
refis in
of
1 month.
2021.
It's a good month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So just getting all those reps was really great for learning how to do my trade,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? And then that was my first 6 months getting out of college,
Yeah.
21.
Mhm.
December, January starts hitting, rates start going up.
Yeah.
So, Fiber had to take a position to say, you know what, we can't keep refinancing people with rates going up. Like the market's not here.
Uh-huh.
We're all salary positions at that time, slight bonuses, things like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're like, okay, let's transition you guys to doing outside sales, going out and
Uh-huh.
building a book of business.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So at that point, that's kind of where like the photography stuff kicked in.
Uh-huh.
Where I
Mhm.
was like, okay, before I would just call people or like introduce myself and try to go meet them, build a relationship, and get
Right.
in there that
Mhm.
way. So at that time, I just started cold calling realtors in Atlanta because I'm not from there. I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And just saying, hey, come get coffee with me, come grab lunch.
You had moved to Atlanta after college.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to
Why
Atlanta for the
Atlanta?
job. Honestly, I was applying around for jobs. I lined
Uh-huh.
up one. I won't name the company, but it was all set up, and then they had like layoffs, and my hiring manager got fired, and it was kind
Mhm.
of a messy situation.
Yeah.
So towards the last 2 months of college, my buddy Greg was working with Fiber in Atlanta
Uh-huh.
and
Mhm.
doing the same role I wanted to do. So I reached out to him, mutual connection. He put me in touch with the CEO. Had a good interview. Seemed like a great fit. I wanted to be in the South, a big city.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I was willing to go anywhere to kind of do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mhm.
So I thought it was pretty interesting that you said that in the outside sales role, pretty much your only form of lead generation was cold calling people and meeting people face to face and kind of building relationships with people. Would you say that that's, in your opinion, the best way to build your book of business getting started? Or have you used like mailers or any other forms of lead generation that worked well for you, or would you say that's kind of your go-to from photography leading into mortgages?
I think in mortgages specifically, it's the best form
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
because no one comes to me first when they want to get into a real estate transaction. If
Right.
Yeah.
someone knows me personally or someone's really into finance or kind of nerdy or like a
Mhm.
one-off person, they might.
Mhm.
But most people, they go on like Zillow or, they hit up a realtor and say, I want to go look at this house.
Mhm.
And
Uh-huh.
normally that realtor's having that conversation in my eyes
Yeah.
of
Right.
like, is your financing together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that kind
They're
of is
making the
stemming like,
recommendation
yeah,
for,
so
the loan.
I go out and I try to meet realtors and
Mhm.
Yeah.
just offer my services, help them out, whether it's, taking them out, becoming friends. I've
Uh-huh.
hosted open houses. I've gone door knocking,
Mhm.
partnered up with marketing. So, helping them grow their book of business, providing value that way. And then
Yeah.
they trust in me and they see the work I put in, and then having that business come back to me.
Yeah.
Because I believe insurance is the same way off mortgages.
Uh-huh.
No one goes to insurance before the house either.
Yeah,
Right.
So
exactly.
normally when I get someone under contract, I refer instantly to an insurance guy just because I need insurance to close this loan.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So I have a book of people that I can work with that will give me a quote same day. I
Yeah.
know they work efficiently. I can trust them. So
Right.
it's kind of like a big cycle of people you kind of need to have like interconnected that are working cohesively.
Yeah.
No,
I
100%,
totally
man.
agree with that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I know you talked about it a little bit because you were really focused on the kind of the numbers side of things, but I know that you got your real estate license first and then went into mortgages. What really was the deciding factor and kind of like your aha moment? Like, this is what I want to do for the foreseeable future. I want to do mortgages.
Um,
Yeah, like, why did you not go the real estate agent route even though you were licensed?
well,
And you were doing leasing too.
yeah, I was
Mhm.
still in college. So I got my real estate license, and literally in that course, I
Hmm.
learned about the MLO license. I didn't know that was a thing,
Mhm.
Yeah.
or I didn't know much about it. So I was still in college. I was like, why don't I take that course too? Like I was interested in learning more about real estate in general.
Hmm.
Right.
So I was like, it's not going to hurt to
Yeah.
take another course. It's COVID. I have like a lot of free time, so why not take this course? See if I like it. If it's not a good fit, it's like
Yeah.
a couple $100,
Mhm.
whatever. I'm just trying to find my career path and what I really want to do.
Right.
I'm
Hmm.
willing to invest in my future. So going through that and kind of looking into like what the day-to-day job is. And I believe in personal finance and, helping people understand numbers because no one ever taught me that. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know that. I help people build credit. So just
Mhm.
hearing like the ins and outs of what you do was
Uh-huh.
really important. And then at the same time, um, I forgot my professor's name, but I was in a real estate class at the same time at FSU.
Uh-huh.
And he brought out a guest speaker that he taught maybe 15 years ago. And he was actually a lender now in Tampa.
Okay.
He does residential, commercial, and private money. So
Mhm.
he's
Uh-huh.
kind of multifaceted. But
Yeah.
he was just talking about his days and whatnot. And I don't know, I grew fond to it and I was really attracted to it.
Yeah.
One of our fraternity brothers' dad was a lender as well. So I
Mhm.
got on a call with him, just talked to him about his day to day. And I like the idea of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, so I love the job role,
Mhm.
1, and then 2, I just like the idea of, like, I could be anywhere in the world and do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
eventually, you know
Yeah, you probably have total control of your schedule.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like, I don't have to be the face of it showing a house per se,
Right.
Yeah.
and I wanted to be more of less like the guy that can be a phone call away to show you
Mhm.
some numbers and
So
being a
do you
digital
work
nomad.
from home most of the time?
Uh, I work remote,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so typically I don't meet a client unless I go to a closing.
Yeah.
So if it's local to me, I'm licensed in a few states, so I can't make it to them all, but if there's one
Yeah.
in Jacksonville, I'd go to it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like on a daily basis, I go to the office probably 4 hours a day.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Work from home a good bit. A lot of my calls come in the evenings
Yeah.
Yeah.
because,
After 5 o'clock,
yeah,
people
people
are.
work 9 to 5.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of my calls come in the evenings or on weekends. So obviously I'm not in the office at that time, but I'm available.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I try to make time in my schedule and always have my phone on to answer it,
Right.
help people when they're available.
Yeah.
100%. 'Cause don't you hate whenever you're working with someone and they turn their phone off at 5 o'clock?
Oh, it's impossible. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
It's the worst.
It is.
Most people have
It happens
jobs,
to me
like the
all the
people who want to
time.
buy a house, they're
Right.
working.
They're working all day and they wanna
Yeah.
find a house eventually, but the only time they're gonna have for you is after work or before work, and unfortunately, those hours aren't the best, but whenever you're, available at those times, you never know what deal could be on the other line.
100%. I imagine it's the same way with showings with both of you.
Yeah.
Like, you can't show
Yeah.
everyone a house at 9 AM on a Tuesday.
And
Right.
some people are coming from out of state and that they'll have like time differences and
Mhm.
they will stop replying after 5 o'clock, but that's really like, you know, 3 o'clock or 8 o'clock our time. And then it takes like days and weeks just to get simple tasks done because you have
Mhm.
that lack of communication.
100%.
So I know that I mentioned it before that you were basically top 10 in the state of Georgia for outside sales mortgages, which is incredible, especially from, that short period of time. Did you have kind of like a moment in your career where you were like, okay, I think I've figured out the secret sauce to my success, and how you were able to scale to, one of the top producers in the whole state as an MLO?
Honestly, at first, my boss taught me about taking people out to coffee dates, just getting in front of
Mhm.
Mhm.
people and talking and introducing yourself and, find out who likes you. I had no business,
Yeah.
but I also wasn't getting paid. So at first, I was just going into the office from 9 to 5 and just cold calling all day.
Mhm.
Like I was really good at setting appointments to the point where like they would no show at the appointment, but I get them to say yes on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I was having like 2, 3 coffee dates a day.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So after I was getting people in front of me for a while, a lot of deals started coming in, too much to the point to where, like, I couldn't even handle it. I
Mm.
Yeah.
just focused on, like, producing leads.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know how to handle them at first.
Uh-huh.
Right.
So whenever that happened, I was like, "Oh, snap, this, like, the coffee date does work, like, following
Mhm.
up with the realtor does work, now let's figure out the processes."
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then once I figured out the kind of the process and scheduling and, you know, maybe keep meetings in the morning and my afternoons and evenings open.
Right.
That
Mhm.
way, that's kinda where the leads are coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, since then, I got like a processor as well, so I have an assistant that helps out with some tasks, which is helpful.
Mhm.
But yeah, just kind of keeping at,
Would you say
believing
that's kind of
in.
the key for scaling for you, is to have that processor to be able to assist you with transactions while you're focusing on lead generation?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main thing in my role is just getting the lead to you, whether it's like a pre-approval they need or whatever, just getting them in the door, having the conversation with them. That's
Yeah.
probably like the number one activity I should be doing.
Mhm.
And then, as you scale up eventually, you have someone that like puts together the pre-approval, looks at docs for you. I'm still doing that.
Mhm.
And then once you have like a purchase contract and you submit it, there's a lot of kind of paperwork that has to be done between the lender as they request more documents, and having someone to do all that kind of frees up a lot of your time to
Yeah.
go back to your realtors, have more conversations, find more people, go to open houses.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I would definitely, recommend to anybody, whether they're in real estate or mortgages or whatever they're doing, that,
Mhm,
if you have the capability to, put somebody by your side and pay for an assistant role or a processor role of some kind to enact that, because, it's going to free up your time to focus, like you said, on the business development side of things, so
mhm,
that mundane tasks are getting done while you're focusing on the business development.
Getting
100%.
new leads too, but, um, you mentioned you moved out to Atlanta. Did you and, you bought your first house out there, right, for before work?
Mhm. Yeah, when I
How was that
first
process for you being on the inside of it rather than the outside?
um, it wasn't too bad. I knew I wanted to buy a house when I moved to Atlanta. I saved up, like, some money from college.
Yeah.
I took the role I took partially because I was getting a salary, and I know how loans work. You need a salary. If you have a salary and no debt, which I did through, like, the military and paying off my car,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you can essentially get a house, and rates are at all-time low. I'm watching this. I'm like, "Okay, I need to buy ASAP."
Yeah.
So I moved out to Atlanta. I rented a bedroom off someone on Facebook for like $400 a month.
Mhm.
I just worked and then like did Uber Eats at night, just like saving up as much cash as I could
Yeah.
to buy houses quickly. So after 3 months, I bought my townhouse in Atlanta, my first property,
Uh-huh.
which honestly was a saving grace because I ended up renting rooms from it.
Uh-huh.
Whenever I went outside sales, they got rid
So
of our
you're
salary.
house hacking it
Yeah.
essentially.
So whenever I went outside sales, I was house hacking, and that kind of kept me afloat while I was building that book of business,
Uh-huh.
which was super helpful.
Mhm.
And kind of like it's the power of real estate. If you own enough properties and you can cash flow and you get good deals,
And that was back in 21, correct?
correct. September 21, I
So
bought
you
my
got
house.
a pretty decent rate on that.
Yeah, I got a 2.25 on that.
Okay.
Jeez.
That's low.
Yeah, yeah.
And you just recently filled that too, right?
It's on the market at the moment.
Oh,
We're
it's on the
looking for a
market.
renter.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully in the next
Because
month
you
or
just
so.
moved here to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I moved here 5, 6 weeks ago now.
Yeah. How you
Yeah.
liking it so far?
It's nice, man. I love it. I moved to San Marco.
Yeah.
It's a nice area. Didn't spend any time in this part of Jacksonville before. Always went to the beach
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
to visit you
Yeah.
and you. But no, Riverside, San Marco, it's a beautiful area. It's up and coming. Putting a ton of money in downtown, so I feel like it's a great place to invest your money.
Yeah.
Um, I
I
put one
I
of my
agree.
units on Airbnb because I bought a triplex, and there's people coming every day, which is awesome to see. It's a great area, great
Mhm.
location. You
Yeah.
guys actually helped me buy it too, which I'm appreciative of.
That was fun. That was a dogfight kinda there for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
but
It
we
was
got to the finish line.
100%. It was actually the first house we looked at, or the first house I was interested in,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and then it got under contract, um, and then it was under contract way too long on MLS,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
and we just kept bugging the listing agent, "Hey, if anything goes wrong,
Let me
call
know.
us,
Let
call us,
us
Yeah.
call
know.
us," and then
Yeah.
before they put it back on the market, we got it off market secured and
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
fought our way to the finish line with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know you had some issues with that and you ended up having to restructure the financing.
Mhm.
What happened?
Yeah, so essentially, my buddy was gonna buy it, put it in his name,
Uh-huh.
with a FHA loan.
Mhm.
So whenever you buy a house through a FHA loan, if it's 3 or 4 units,
Mhm.
um, the rent has to be so high as a percentage of the mortgage payment.
I think it's
Yeah.
So
75%.
yeah, so
Yeah.
to keep numbers easy, let's say your house brings in 4K in rent.
Uh-huh.
They'll give you a 75, they'll times that by 0.75. So
Mhm.
they'll say you get 3K in rent. If
Mhm.
your
Mhm.
mortgage payment is above that number, they won't let you close on it. So right now it's really hard. It's a really old rule from like 2011.
Okay.
Mhm.
So with interest rates being
So
really
they won't
high,
even let you use like your income to qualify for the additional
no, yeah,
payment
yeah,
on the mortgage.
yeah. So I mean, he could float the whole mortgage. It's just FHA rule. If this doesn't
Uh-huh.
happen, it's not self sufficient, is what they call
Yeah.
it. So with high interest rates and higher purchase prices today,
Mhm.
most nicer triplexes and quads, especially in Florida and Atlanta, it's hard to get by that rule,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is awesome because conventional just changed
Yeah.
Yep.
a couple days ago to where you could put 5% down
Yeah,
on a
we
triplex
actually
and quad, and you don't have to have that rule to pass.
we
And you
talked
can,
about that on our last episode
yeah,
actually.
so that's very awesome because before it was 15%.
Uh-huh.
So
Mhm.
FHA was definitely the way to go
Right.
with 3.5. But the FHA didn't work for us for that reason. So
Uh-huh.
I put it in my name. I got a VA loan on it. I was able to, get it closed. A couple
Yeah.
issues popped up with like some damages. VA's a little bit pickier,
Mhm.
that
And
type
so
of thing.
but you were able to use the VA loan on your first house and your second house. You can use that how many times can you use a VA loan if someone doesn't know that's watching?
So it gets really complicated with the math,
Mhm.
but there's something called entitlement.
Right.
So to keep numbers easy, let's say you can have $1 million worth of loans in
Mhm.
VA. On my first home, let's say I used 300,000.
Right.
Now, if I'm moving, like you can't just buy one, two, three, month after month. But let's say you buy a home, tend to live there as your primary, which you have to do with a VA
Mhm.
home.
You have to stay there for 12 months?
Yeah, so it's more about intention.
Right.
Mhm.
There's no like wording on it or
Right.
set time frame. But if you're buying a house one month and then you buy the neighbor's house the next month, it's a
They're gonna be
little,
like, "Hey, what's going on
yeah,
here?"
it's a little weird. But if you move to Atlanta for a job, live there for 2 years, and then you're moving to a new state and city for a job, that's a pretty normal thing of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have kids and you have a two-bedroom and now you need 4, you
Right.
can move down the block, that sort of thing. But if you have leftover entitlement,
Mhm.
you can get another VA loan. If you don't have enough, you might have to put down, like, a bigger down payment per
Right.
se, but,
Mhm.
each city has its own different entitlement levels,
Mhm.
and they base it off number of units too. So
Okay.
on a triplex, you have more entitlement, and you can go higher in dollars than on a single family.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then, Miami probably would have higher entitlement than, like, Kansas.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Now, when you were working on closing that, they were only using the projected long-term lease rents when you were looking at the financing from the VA standpoint, but now you're doing Airbnb
Mhm.
instead. So, how is that kind of different for you? Because obviously, long-term leases have a little bit less management, and Airbnbs, you're actively managing that every single day. How is that process? And you know, furnishing, getting the Airbnb on the market and kind of building your client list to, now you're cash flowing, decently well on the property. So wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. So any type of loan you buy kind of through like conventional methods, conventional VA, FHA, they're always going to use long-term leases
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
because they need something strict on paper that works.
Yeah.
And they're going to have an appraiser go out there to tell you what that long-term rent is and compare that to the leases. So they verify a few different ways to make sure the numbers make sense for you.
Uh-huh.
Whenever someone says they Airbnb it, it gets kind of complicated just because, how much are they writing off? How much are they paying other people to run it?
Right.
So it's kind of a sketchier, more risky loan. Some lenders do it, but they require bigger down payments or have different requirements. So it's not the easiest way to get, conventional financing on. But checking out when we bought the property, the long-term rents made sense to where after the other 2 units were rented, I would have to come out of pocket almost $700 a month.
Mhm.
So pretty close numbers there to live in a nice area. It's lower than I could rent somewhere.
Yeah.
So putting one of the units on Airbnb, we thought we could make even more money and maybe, cash flow while keeping one unit.
Yeah.
It's been up on Airbnb for 3 weeks, 4 weeks
Yeah.
going on, and I got 5-star reviews, maybe like 6, 7 reviews. It's booked like 70-80% this month already, and half of next month's already
That's a
booked.
great
That's
occupancy
awesome.
rate,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, so it's kinda crushing it. I think a lot to do with the area.
Uh-huh.
A
Yeah.
lot of people come in and they say not all of them say what they're here for, but a
Uh-huh.
lot will say, "I'm coming for this concert," or "I'm coming for Georgia, Florida this weekend," which is close to the stadium,
You're like a
or
10-minute drive to the stadium and like 10 minutes to Veterans Memorial Arena. Yeah, you're right there in the
Yeah.
mix of it all.
exactly. I have someone come in for Thanksgiving, they have family here in Jacksonville, and they just
Mhm.
needed a place for their kids.
Right.
So it's just, I think, great location, great opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
100%.
Totally agree. So I wanted to ask you about, kind of your goal setting, and how you transition that into your business. So wanted to hear from you, what kind of goals were you setting for yourself whenever you were working on your MLO business, and what kind of goals do you have now, and do you have any, expectations for the future?
When I first started on the outside of things, my goal was to meet 10 realtors a week.
Mhm.
That was like my number one. I didn't care what happened. I want to meet 10 realtors, whether it's
Yeah.
going to an open house, cold calling, getting coffee, Facebook, LinkedIn, friend of a friend, mother's aunt, cousin. I needed to talk to 10 realtors a week. That was like my
Yeah.
number one. Like, if I know enough, I'll get some to trickle in one way or another.
Uh-huh.
So that was my main goal then. And that ended up working. I had to tone that back because it gets kind of overwhelming at a certain point. Um, but
It's a good
coming
problem to have.
Yeah, so in Atlanta, I built up my business that way, and that worked very well. I'm new to Jacksonville, so
Mhm.
I still have the original book of business kind of coming in,
Mhm.
but now I wanna grow Jacksonville. I'm not being as aggressive with it. My
Mhm.
goal is to meet 1 to 2 realtors a week here in
Mhm.
Jacksonville or, like, St. Augustine surrounding areas,
Right.
just so, I can supplement that, but I'm not taking away from the time I'm spending on pre-approving or working on my other clients.
Mhm.
But yeah, just I feel like you always gotta keep meeting people. Like, you
100%.
you guys have probably seen that a lot of people are getting out of the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
working with realtors, some of those are leaving or not working as much, so
Have you been seeing a lot of, like, your, realtors that you've worked with in the past starting to, like, kinda dip off? Like, do you
um,
have, like did you have, like, a handful of them that you work with directly and now they're just kinda ghost?
ever since I started, I've had fallout every month.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe, like, 1 or 2 person that's, like, on my list. Maybe we don't talk a lot.
Mhm.
Maybe we never worked, but, like, we follow each other. I see what they're doing.
And are those,
Um,
like are they, like, coming to you directly like, "Hey, Chandler, I know I've been using you as my lender for a few months, but it's just rough right now." Like, what are those conversations look like?
Are they kind of blaming
um,
the market and leaving the industry?
some people conversation of like, "This is tough. I don't know what I'm doing," and maybe like a lack of direction or they're brand new, which I
Mhm.
Yeah.
think is normal in any role. You get into something, you don't know what it is, and then,
Mhm.
maybe you head on it the way out.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that not to cut you off, but I think a lot of people too know that you can make a lot of money in real estate, but also can't really have that discipline like you talked about in the beginning of this to kind of, stick it out whenever it gets hard and know that it's a long-term game. It's not like a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah, it's tough,
It's
especially if you
tough.
have like bills or a family. Like I was lucky enough to just, be by myself. My
Mhm.
house kind of cash flow, I had no debt, so I was able to
Mhm.
tough it out. But I did work with people that, even on the MLO side, that had families and like
Mhm.
they have to make decisions. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's hard to just start with no income coming in. It's like starting a new business.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So, I mean,
You have to have kinda 6 to 12 months of, nest egg
Yeah.
yeah,
ready to be able to cover bills to kinda build that book of business from the beginning, because a lot of people don't realize that whenever you're first starting out, you're probably not gonna close anything or make any money for the first, 6 to 12 months, depending on, how well you do. Some people do it in 3.
mm, yeah. It
But
took me about. I had some trickle from like when I was doing inside sales
uh-huh.
Mhm.
that still were like hitting like months into outside, just because they had to get some paperwork together, get their income together, work on credit. But my first outside sale came like 6 months in.
Yeah, 6
Mhm.
So
months.
like I had to weather a storm for a minute
Yeah.
Yeah.
and know like there's an end in sight.
I did the same thing as you, actually. One of the first positions I took out of college was salary with commission on
Hmm.
top, because I knew that you gotta have some supplemental income in the beginning to, have your feet under you, and then I transitioned, to commission only once I had that consistent, lead flow and things going, so,
It's a
uh
motivator though. I feel like I
yeah.
work harder
No,
in
I
outside sales
agree.
than I did on inside. I worked hard on inside, but still having that,
Mhm.
there's make or break right now.
But then you
Yeah.
also mentioned that whenever you were kind of scraping by, you're also doing Uber. Uber Eats, right?
Yeah, I was like for that 6 months, yeah, I was like house hacking my house,
So
and then
you didn't care. You were like, "I just need to get to the,
I
the
mean,
next
that
paycheck."
yeah, I
sounds like
wasn't
0
traveling,
free
wasn't
time.
vacationing. Yeah, 0 free
Yeah.
time. I'd work like
You're working around the
8 to
clock.
8, 8 to 9 every day.
Yeah.
But that
That's
Just
like
making ends
dedication,
meet.
yeah, but
though.
like you said, no one taught you whenever you were younger, so you kinda had to teach yourself, and you probably can squeeze 20 bucks longer than someone else can now. So
Yeah,
that's kinda, it's cool how that kinda happens.
and this is in, like, the reality of things, this is an easy job. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm
Yeah.
not deployed working 12 hours a day, wearing 50 pounds of gear, walking through 120 degrees, like,
Would
Yeah.
you do it
if
again though?
oh, yeah, to
Yeah.
get to where I am today, for
Yeah.
sure, but, cold calling realtors and then Ubering at night to make ends meet is relatively easy, it's not, like, the craziest thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So back to the goals. What are your goals for the future? I know you talked a little bit about like your daily goals when you were, meeting realtors and stuff, but do you have like anything that you're working towards? Any new things that you're working on in the business?
Next year, I'd like to produce 30 million in loan volume,
Mhm.
and then long-term goals, I wanna get up to 10 properties.
10 properties in your
Yeah,
in your portfolio.
yeah,
10 properties or 10 doors? I know you have 4 doors.
10 properties.
10
10
properties.
Yeah,
properties.
10 properties.
Gotcha. Okay.
I
I
think
think
it
that's a good goal.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like at that point, I can kinda, like, take the foot off the gas
A
and
little bit.
maybe even be able to retire and just live off that, kinda go explore other parts of life.
So you have a property in Atlanta, you have a multifamily in Jacksonville. Where would you want your next property to be located, you think? You think here in Jacksonville or
Probably here in Jacksonville. I
yeah.
like to acquire one-ish a year,
Mhm.
so I plan on staying here for a few years, so
Mhm.
And that
naturally have them close by, easier to manage and whatnot.
and that first one's a townhouse. The second one is a duplex with an ADU in the back.
Mhm.
What do you see your next property being?
Ideally, a multifamily.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
little harder to find, but, if the
Mhm.
right deal comes along, I'm willing to get into anything. I think houses with ADUs are a good opportunity right now if you're
Mhm.
even like a renovation loan or construction loan, building an ADU on a
Yeah.
house that
Mhm.
has a good rental rate by itself before you add that on.
Are
Right.
you planning to use the new conventional down payment structure to acquire your next
Oh,
one?
if I bought another multifamily, 100% I would.
Yeah.
So do you not have any more entitlement with your VA?
They raise it every year, so I'll
Uh-huh.
gain a little bit back, but I just about maxed it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would
So
make sense to do the
yeah,
5%.
unless like I
Conventional.
refinance one of my properties way in the future to get like equity out,
Mhm.
I would refinance into a conventional loan for that purpose,
Right.
and then get more VA entitlement.
Yeah. I would probably wait on the refi for a little bit.
Yeah, at the moment I'm good. I'll let that thing sit forever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at 2 and a quarter, I wouldn't do anything with that.
Yeah,
I'd
another
leave it
shot.
right where it's
That's
at.
yeah, you keep it there.
100%.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I wanted to bring up, kind of hot topic current event that we're all going to be affected by, and that's the lawsuit that's going on right now with the National Association of Realtors. And wanted to hear kind of both your input on what you think of the situation and what's going on right now.
I think honestly that I looked into it a little bit, but as far as I can remember in some of the conversations I've had with other realtors or people in the real estate game, for the last like 20 years, they've been kind of up in arms about commissions and stuff to realtors. And it's almost like they've always kind of had this or tried to have this like chokehold on our industry, but it never really pans out. I think that if agents can just continue to kind of set that expectation with buyers and sellers that, hey, this is the commission across the board. We all have to work. We all have jobs. This is all how we make a living, how we put food on the table, how we keep our bills paid. Um, I think with anything, you're always gonna have people that disagree. But I think the other thing too is this has kind of just been like a very long, drawn out um, situation, and I honestly think we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, I
I think we'll be okay.
think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chandler?
I think we'll be okay with like commissions in general, but I haven't done a ton of research on it, but I did see something proposed where buyers would have to pay buyers agents,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I'm not the biggest fan of that just because a lot of
I
people I
agree.
work with, especially being younger, a lot of my real estate agents are younger. We work with first time home buyers that are on a tighter budget.
Mhm.
And three and a
So
half percent down is all they can afford.
yeah,
Right.
100%. Normally having like 3%, average house is let's say 300K.
Mhm.
They need 9,000 for that. And then let's say they need 3% for closing costs. Now they're at 18K. You got
Mhm.
to throw like another 2% on there now that they're going from 18 to 25 ish.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a little more.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it gets a little bit tougher for first time home buyer. I don't think people buying homes that are selling their first home are going to feel it as much, just because they're taking those profits and rolling it to the next property.
Yeah.
But it definitely, I think it would hurt, and like it would make homeownership a little less accessible to
Yeah.
that first generation home buyer, lower income families, things of that nature.
And I don't know why, but I feel like there is like a small percentage of people that kinda have this weird, like, connotation against realtors, like, "Oh," I actually was there's a house on 7th Ave that I used to live on, and they had a for sale by owner sign, but in big black Sharpie ink, it said, "No realtors." So I was just like, how do
Expect
you
to get
expect?
anything
Because then
done?
I
Yeah.
see that as a realtor, I'm like, "Okay, I get it. These people probably think that realtors are just know-it-alls or they aren't entitled to any money." But, like, as a realtor, why would I wanna take one of my buyers to your properties if you're not even gonna try to,
Mhm.
throw me a
Yeah.
bone? I could if I had a buyer that was interested in it, so be it, but it's just like that kinda just rubs you the wrong way off the get-go. Um but I mean, again, I think it's just one of those things that's kind of been ongoing, and I think in the grand scheme of things, we'll be okay. But just kind of keep that expectation. And I think a lot of sellers actually know that they need to offer some sort of commission to help get their house sold because most people that are you know trying to sell a property, like you said earlier, they have jobs too.
Yeah.
They're busy all week. Leave it up to someone like us, to help you with the process and make it way more easier. And then you can kind of move on to the next one and do your thing and use us as a tool.
I
Yeah.
agree. I think what a lot of people don't understand from the, for sale by owner type situation is they think that they can do it themselves. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? They have this thought in their mind where it's like, well, I'll just do it myself and I'll save 6%. But it's actually statistically proven that properties that sell via agents on the market and through the MLS system are, I mean, 10% or more higher on purchase price
Yep.
versus being sold for sale by owner.
Mhm.
So if you're making that much more on the sale price, but you're paying out 6%, you're still net profiting more if you're selling it on the open market, because when you're selling it for sale by owner, if you're putting it, even if you're putting a sign in the yard, I mean, you're getting drive-by traffic, and then you go and you put it on Zillow for sale by owner, that's a whole different column. If you, as a retail buyer, get onto Zillow to search for properties, it immediately takes you to the agent-only listings. To even look at the for sale by owners, you have to go out of your way to go to the for sale by owner column, and then you're dealing directly with people, and without that experienced agent in between to help, guide the transaction and the proper disclosures and addendums and things that it takes to get to the end. I mean, you're probably going to end up having to get an attorney to make sure
Mhm.
that the contracts and the documents are done correctly. Most agents know how to navigate that without
Mhm.
having to get an attorney involved. So you end up having more expenses.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's just a common misconception that a lot of people can't grasp that are in that situation. But do the research and look into it, and people will see. It really is best to work with a professional to get any type of property sold.
I think having the negotiation through a second party is super important too,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
people are very attached to their homes. Most people aren't selling investment properties to
Right.
other investment property owners.
Mhm.
Most people, it's their primary home that they love. They think it's worth something, selling it to someone else,
Yeah,
and things get heated. And
Oh,
those
for
it
sure.
gets
yeah,
nasty.
You have to get
realtors get
people
in the
to
middle
reality.
and they're able to like settle their side down, settle the other side down, explain why they're asking for seller credits or
Right.
why something needs to be repaired in a calm way. And I
Yeah.
Mhm.
think that makes deals happen and go through. It's not
You
me
100.
calling you
Yeah.
as you selling your home and telling you, you have to fix that or I'm out. Like nothing's
Yeah.
hostile. It's very professional.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean,
And a lot of people
when
don't
you're
have that
working directly,
acumen.
it's emotional. It's an emotional process. Like you said, it's somebody's, like, you know, they may have thought it was their forever home, but then something comes up for work or family or whatever it is, and they have to move or they have to, get rid of property for whatever reason. It's an emotional process for them. Like you said, they may think it's worth more than
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
really is. You have to bring people to reality to get transactions done. So I think that's an important part of the process.
It's oftentimes people's like most valuable asset too. So
Mhm.
just knowing that they don't want to kill their life savings, like it's very personal to a lot of people.
Yeah.
100%. How has, obviously you got into, your MLOs back in, COVID times whenever interest rates were low. How's it been this year with interest rates being a little bit higher?
Um, I've been studying
A little bit
growing
tighter?
my business.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I've seen kind of a pickup like this will be my best year.
Mhm.
But it is a lot harder. Less people get pre-approved that come through the door just because rates are higher.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a lot of my clients are first-time home buyers. For someone that owns, a $700,000 home and they're moving from New York and they're
Mhm.
buying a $700,000 home in Florida, it's not too tough. A lot of them
Yeah,
have like a ton of
exactly.
equity. But for the person who got out of college, has a 60K salary, $500 car payment, and some student loans, it's definitely tough. And,
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
a lot more coaching of like, hey, this is what you really want to do. Let's do this over the next 12 months. Let's work on paying down your credit cards or,
Mhm.
maybe refinancing your car or trading it in, getting something else. If,
Uh-huh.
Right.
just guiding them and giving them the principles and understanding what it takes to buy a house that way,
Yeah.
So you're giving them all these different avenues to go through to obtain property. What are like some of like the most common objections you're dealing with right now?
I mean, a common one is rates,
Yeah.
but just
Mhm.
kind of, I work for a broker, so
Mhm.
we work with multiple lenders. So just kind of explaining like, here's what rates are. We price match most companies to an
Mhm.
extent, as long as we don't lose money on it. So giving them the confidence to go shop around is huge for me. I'm just like, hey, go shop around, like do your due
Mhm.
diligence, get the best deal you can, and showing them, how to read closing costs, understand what they're paying for as far
Yeah.
as rates.
Mhm.
Telling them, if you need a 6%, we could pay for it. We can ask the seller for it, explaining the
Mhm.
dynamics of a negotiation, why that's important for them, and maybe like if one house won't give you seller credits, maybe that's not the house because
Right.
you're attached to a payment. If you
Right.
want a payment, this is what we need to do to get you
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing too in today's market is kind of to utilize that seller credit interest rate buy down where you can get money back at closing to then, help with that objection as, oh my gosh, interest rates are so high. Well, hey, get with an agent that can construct an offer that, allows you to use some of the, funds of a closing to then buy it down and get you into like a payment you want to be at.
Oh,
Are you using
100%.
that a lot on your loans right now?
I'd say like 90% of my loans come through with some form of seller credits.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
But if I was a buyer, I would be asking for max seller credits almost on anything.
Yeah,
Did you do that
exactly.
on the triplex?
Yeah, on the triplex, I ask for max seller credits.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But it's just, it's financially smart.
Mhm.
If you, let's say you have a
Did you do a
300
fixed rate buy down or did you do a
fixed rate.
2-1?
Mhm.
Fixed
Okay.
rate. I don't really like the 2-1 buy down just
Okay.
because the future's uncertain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We never know what's gonna happen. I don't wanna You're taking the market rate at the end of the day.
You
Yeah.
you are.
So
Yeah.
if the
And
rates
you
are
have to qualify
8%,
for it.
yeah, you might have a 6 first year, 7 second year, but you have 8, 3 through 30.
Uh-huh.
I can't tell you where the market's gonna be. I can tell you where we think it's gonna be,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm not gambling on someone's well-being. If
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
not comfortable with that payment, I'd rather put them in a fixed, like 6.5
Yeah.
Yeah.
for 30. If the opportunity comes,
Refinance.
refinance it, but,
Mhm.
are we happy here?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Worst comes to worst, this is us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ended up getting a fixed 6 and a quarter recently,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I was okay with that because I got 5% concessions
Oh,
from the seller.
that's
So,
the
I
way to
mean,
do
I
it.
was okay with that.
It's the way to do it. Getting seller credits dollar for dollar is more important for your payment than lowering purchase price.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if you lower someone's purchase price by 10,000, it might change their payment by $30, depending on
Mhm.
the
Uh-huh.
rate. If you get 10,000 seller credits, you could probably lower their payment to 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
So
huge.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially for a buyer that's on a tight budget,
Yeah.
that could be like an extra 50K in financing to
Yeah.
get into the home they really want, or
Right.
That's a big difference.
100%.
It seems like your MLO process, you're not just, originating loans, you're a therapist, you're
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
a financial advisor almost because you're helping people, repair their credit and, pay things off and kind of structure deals to where, you're probably trying to teach them things along the
Mhm.
way. So, would you say that's a integral part of your business?
Oh, 100%. I think that's why I do well at my job.
Yeah.
I got into it because I like personal finance. I didn't know how
Uh-huh.
to finance a house. I didn't know what goes into it.
Mhm.
So now I kinda like know like tricks. I know what I'm looking for. Nobody knows what they're paying for in closing costs.
Yeah.
Right.
No one's ever taught them. I've talked to people who have bought 5 houses and they still don't know what points are.
Mhm.
So like just showing them a rate sheet, like,
Yeah.
any rates available to you. Some people will just try to force you to have so much points, but no one knows what it really means.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So just breaking things down, explaining to people, making them more savvy buyers. That way,
Yeah.
maybe they move to a different state, use someone else next time. They know what they're doing, or they're
Uh-huh.
putting themselves in a smarter financial spot.
Mhm.
Should we invest 5,000 in a rate today? What will
Mhm.
that look like on my weekly budget?
Uh-huh.
Or, maybe we save the cash and take a higher payment because, we could put that in another investment vehicle. So just having those conversations, figuring out their goals, or your
Yeah.
kids going to college soon, you need more savings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Figuring out that type of thing, you could really like craft a loan to someone's life.
Yeah, for sure. What would you recommend to, people that are interested in investing or buying properties right now that are kind of struggling with the state of the market?
If you're looking at buying properties, it's kind of tough. You
Mhm.
know, it definitely takes some time. You got to be patient. I think finding a good deal is the most important thing. Deals that have
Mhm.
been on the market, 45, 60 days, maybe something that needs to be fixed up a little bit. Renovation loans
Yeah.
are out there to where you can finance the cost of that, and still put as little as 3% down. You can find a lot of value there. Asking for seller credits to get a lower rate, I think, is important on any deal just because, you know, saving that cash flow monthly, not stretching yourself too thin is super
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
And, if it's especially if it's your first deal, you don't want to go upside down on your first deal.
Right.
Finding a deal that makes a lot of sense and you're happy with can set you up for a bountiful future.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, like, knowing everything you know now, growing up, didn't really have, much, you said, didn't really know what you wanna do out of high school, got into the military, uh, kinda entrepreneured your way through college, did some, investing in stocks, crypto, bought your first townhouse, got into mortgages, own a triplex in San Marco, looking to buy another property this year. What's, like, some advice you would give to the kid that was maybe in your shoes at 17, 18, where he knows he wants to maybe doesn't have that financial guidance, knows that he wants to make money, knows that he wants to be successful, knows that he wants to do all these things. What would you tell to the kid that's, maybe was in your shoes whenever you were, kind of trying to figure it out that 17, 18-year
Mhm.
time frame or 19?
I would say get on YouTube and read. Like,
YouTube and
if
read?
if it's like finance and business, there's a
Mhm,
ton of books out there for every sector. You know, pick up a real estate book, pick
mhm,
up Rich Dad Poor Dad, pick up
Uh-huh.
self-help books. Find out like what you're drawn to,
mhm,
and then dive into that a little bit deeper. If it's real estate, okay, cool, dive into it. Do you like insurance? Do you like
mhm,
mortgages? Do you like real estate?
right,
Do you want to wholesale? Do you want to house hack?
and I assume
There's a ton of different niches out there. So,
mhm,
Yeah.
if you can kind of narrow in on what you like or explore different topics, I mean, something's gonna hit you and, just go at that full swing.
mhm, stay disciplined, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Is that something you're still doing? Are you still actively, reading and doing research on different, investing strategies or whatever the topic might be?
I listen to like 15, 20 minutes of an audiobook every day.
Uh-huh.
So I do that a good bit. Right now I'm listening to like a landlording book.
Mhm,
I have a management company in Atlanta and we're landlording somewhat here.
Uh-huh.
So just trying to gain more knowledge. A lot of it we kind of know just from being in real estate, talking about contracts and
Mhm.
the legalities of it, but just trying to gain some more knowledge or little tidbits here and there that
What's the
I can pick up
best, like, financial advice book that you've read?
on.
Or maybe not financial, it could be self-help or anything
Um,
like that.
Rich Dad Poor Dad was the first one that like really got me into like those types of books.
mhm,
It's
Uh-huh.
broken down really easily and it makes sense for like a like grand scheme of finance. And then The Richest Man in Babylon is kind of
mm,
What
important.
was that one about? I don't think I've read that one.
It's about this guy back in Babylon and like his trials and tribulations,
mhm,
just and the lessons he learned along the way, and
Uh-huh.
the learning about the value of a dollar and how to invest his coin in certain ways to produce more.
right,
It's like true stories,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting to hear that where they talk about investing. We have it so easy; we can put it in a Roth and a 401k and
mhm,
Uh-huh.
these investment vehicles that we can automate. Back then, it's like he had to get a coin and give 10% to a random guy on the street and he like steal it. So like he's learning about like how to safely invest, but like
Yeah.
in a different time.
mhm.
So it's just kind of cool to hear like the tried and true um, ideas of finance and trying to grow your wealth that have still true today. You just have to kind of change how we implement
Yeah.
it.
I read a pretty interesting one that was actually by the president and founder of DLP Capital. It was basically about it was a long title, but it was about kind of building a business from the ground up
Mm,
and what it takes. And I would definitely recommend, giving that a read. It's a little bit more like CEO high level
mhm.
strategies, but very very interesting, good read for anybody that's interested to learn a little bit more about high level business management practices for an established company. That's by Don Wenner.
Nice. I'll have to check
But
that out.
Yeah, you'll have to check that out. So I appreciate kind of your words of wisdom that you've provided for any viewers that are listening that are interested in, taking their mortgage or whatever business they have to the next level. And is there anything else that you'd like to share? I'd like to hear on a more non-finance related topic your thoughts of kind of Jacksonville for the future, especially with the Thunderdome coming in from the Jaguars.
Um, I think Jacksonville has a bright future. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a warm city in the South.
Right.
Uh, One of the reasons I moved to Atlanta is it was one of the major hubs that's kinda on the cheaper side. It's hard to just come out of college and go to Miami right away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
So,
sure.
Jacksonville has that feel to me too where, Tampa's already boomed,
Mhm.
super expensive, it's hard to start out in your career there. Miami's already there. Jacksonville's a great city with,
Jacksonville's on the way.
the median house here is cheaper than almost any major hub in the
yeah,
Southeast. So it's a great place to come start. They're putting in a lot of renovation, all the hotels going downtown, the stadium. Even like next to my house, they're building like a skate park under a bridge. They're building new developments. Just a lot coming here. I think it's
Mhm.
a great city.
yeah. I remember
Close
you
to the
talking about the
beach
skate
too.
park. Yeah,
Yeah.
how's that coming along? That's supposed to be done soon, right?
I think it's like a 12-month project. I don't think it'll be
12
finished
months.
till next month, but you definitely can tell they're putting money into the city here, which is awesome.
Yeah, they're definitely putting a lot of money
How
into
much
the
I
city.
think with that one that's going on with the Jacksonville Jaguars, isn't that like 2 billion? How much is I don't
I
wanna
think two billion's around the
around
price of like all the
2 billion?
hotels and the
Yeah,
Yeah,
parks and the stadium.
yeah,
yeah,
which is huge.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
They're
gonna
bringing
bring
a
in.
lot to downtown, and I hope that
Like that Riverwalk area
Mhm.
too?
I think that'll make a big difference. Obviously, we still have, like any downtown in any major city, a little bit of a homeless problem in the
Yeah.
downtown area. But I think that as they continue to develop and kind of bring downtown Jacksonville to the modern era, it will help significantly because I feel like Jacksonville Beach area is really the major hub
Mhm.
of nice and affluent things to do. So I hope that they bring that and finish that out within the next couple of years. I feel like I've been hearing about Jacksonville on the rise over the last 10, 15 years, and it's finally starting to
Yeah.
take hold. So I hope that it continues to move onwards and upwards.
I'm
Um,
pretty sure the developer of the stadium too is the same person who did the Battery in Atlanta.
okay.
And then that area was kind of dead. They built that up. They put hotels, restaurants. It's like a whole new side of Atlanta to go hang out in.
What
Yeah.
town is that in?
Smyrna,
Smyrna.
Smyrna, Marietta. It's
Yeah.
northwest Atlanta.
Battery, is that by the baseball stadium?
Yeah, they call the whole area the Battery. So it's like
Uh-huh.
the stadium, and then they have like an Omni hotel attached, a couple restaurants, but it's like a destination to go to for a night or a
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
So
So that's
ideally, if they
brand
do
new.
that with the Jag Stadium,
Yeah.
we're just not tailgating outside
Yeah.
Right.
the
Yeah.
field. You got restaurants, bars, you got people coming in to stay at hotels, a couple businesses popping up, and just the city
Yeah.
growing even more with that.
It's gonna help everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what would you like to leave the viewers with on how you can be contacted or be reached, and how you can help them?
Yeah, of course. My name's Chandler Perrer. Phone number 850-341-3923 if you ever want to talk about finance, mortgages, real estate, you know, getting out of college, kind of figuring out what you want to do. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to help you out. And if you are ever interested in becoming an MLO, want to have that type of conversation, I'd love to help you and tell you the steps to get, where you need to be.
Awesome.
Nice, man.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. I
We
appreciate
really
it.
appreciate you coming through. Obviously, we've been friends for a long time and have done business together, closed some deals together, on the mortgage side and on the real estate side. And I'm happy that you came on, and we'll continue to foster our friendship and our business relationship moving forwards. And I appreciate everybody tuning in to the podcast. Be uh, tuned in. We've got more on the way, and we're super excited for all the guests and different business avenues that we're going to be discussing moving forward. So stay tuned into the next one. And I'm Bryce Osepic. This is the Journey Up, an Entrepreneur's Guide, and we'll see you on the next one.